past 18 months, it's become clear that if the African continent is to be globally competitive, it must embrace the common vision of creating an integrated and inclusive digital society that improves the quality of life of citizens, strengthens the development of the private sector, and advances Africa's quest to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. COVID-19, like every cloud, has a silver lining, and it accelerated the digitalization of Africa and helped us to see how pivotal digital platforms, applications, and services are. According to the UN Economic Commission for Africa, 61% of a sample of firms surveyed on the continent reported an increase in online sales since the start of the pandemic, while more than 60% of micro, small, and medium enterprises identified online selling as a top new opportunity in response to the crisis. As we were locked down, trading moved from shops to online and digital platforms. Globally, the digital economy is projected to grow from $11.5 trillion in 2016 to over $23 trillion by 2025. We cannot be spectators and observe events. We have to be part of the networked world of today. And as a government, we are focusing on improving access, reducing costs, and improving the speed of internet access, while also leveraging on digital platforms to augment fiscal policy and better shape the delivery of public services. We need to understand the nature of transactions being undertaken on digital platforms. And I'll try and give a small snapshot of this. A survey was recently conducted on transactions undertaken on digital platforms. And some of the results confirm that in Ghana, digital platforms have become the main tool in recent times for payment for goods and services, as well as for transfers and remittances locally and in some cases abroad. The survey also showed that digital transactions have surpassed cash and checks as the preferred medium for transacting business. Data from the Bank of Ghana and other sources have also confirmed the growing trend in e-commerce and other online sales and activities. Between February 2020 and February 2021 alone, Ghana witnessed an increase of over 120% in the value of digital transactions compared to 44% for the same period between February 2019 and February 2020. Online selling offers convenience. It's easy to transact, it's secure, it is visible, and the surge, we believe, was primarily due to the increase in the use of digital platforms caused by COVID-19 at the beginning of 2020. We've all realized that without digital infrastructure, it's almost impossible to live in today's world. Try leaving your phone behind at home and going to work and see if you can function properly during the day. It's no longer a luxury. It's become an indispensable tool for transacting any kind of business. And it's not just for entertainment, but it is a working tool. It is your bank in your pocket. It is your office in your pocket. It is your source of correspondence, amongst other things. In 2020, the total value of transactions was estimated to be over 500 billion, compared to 257 billion in 2019, and only 78 billion in 2016, just 5 years ago. Today, as we speak, and we have the data for mobile money transactions from 1st to 24th January, 333 million plus mobile money transactions have been conducted just this year alone, from 1st to 24th January. Worth and the value of over 75 billion cedis has been transacted just for this period, and the month has not even ended. I don't have the comparable figures for the banks, but I dare say bank transactions will be just about a third of what we're witnessing on mobile money platforms. The Finance Ministry tells us, and he's here, he'll give us more detail on that, that our tax to GDP ratio stands at 12.2%, which is one of the lowest in sub-Saharan Africa. The average for the region is 16.5%. In practical terms, 8% of the population are paying for the developmental needs of the entire country and carrying the tax burden of 30.8 million people. That's not sustainable. And I dare say it is unfair to mainly public sector workers and those who are registered with the GRA as taxpayers, while the rest of us, both in the formal and informal sector, find ingenious ways of evading our civic responsibility to pay taxes. We're talking about a Ghana beyond aid. We need to be able to finance our own development and stop the dependence on either loans or grants or aid from other countries if we are to be truly independent. In 2008, the government of President Koforidua introduced the Communication Service Tax in August of that year, and it became another source of income for national development. That tax was introduced at the rate of 6%, which was later increased to 9%. E-levy is being introduced at the lowest rate for any tax in Ghana, comparatively at 1.75%, less than 2%. In other countries, digital taxes are being introduced at the rate of up to 10%, and they are paying. That's the UK, and we go there and seek loans from them to finance our development, when we are not paying the requisite taxes that we should. In 2020, the Communication Service Tax Amendment Act was passed to reduce the rate from 9% to 5% from the 15th of September 2020. When the CST was introduced, it faced similar opposition as we are seeing currently. And the current speaker dubbed it as talk tax, as the NDC and the industry, led by the GSMA data, claimed it would damage the growth of the telecommunications industry as consumers would change their mobile communication habits. This does not happen. They were unfounded fears. Incidentally, at the time, I was the spokesperson for the mobile telecommunications network operators. And I remember vehemently opposing the communication service tax based on data from the GSME, which is an industry association, the GSM Association internationally. They had produced data to the effect that introduction of any such tax would kill the industry, stifle its growth. And so based on that analysis, we all went out and opposed the introduction of that tax. Several years on, we realized that those dangers were unfounded. It never happened. The industry has grown exponentially since 2008, and all of us find telecommunications and digital infrastructure applications and services as indispensable to everything that we seek to do. The same speculations and complaints are being made about the E-levy, that consumers will stop using electronic transactions because of the imposition of this levy. I dare say that based on our experience with the communication service tax and lessons from other African countries, we're confident that the E-levy will not bring about any negative changes in consumer behavior, as electronic transactions afford us the convenience, the safety, the security that we currently enjoy. Despite the NDC's opposition to the communication service tax, they never repealed it when they were in power. They didn't even reduce the rate of the levy. They also complained about and rejected the National Health Insurance Scheme when it was introduced in Parliament and actually walked out. They complained about the capitation grant and sought to rubbish it. They had issues with free SHS and even asked for a boycott of the national ID and ridiculed our oil discovery as well, claiming that it was adringo and not crude oil. They always oppose every initiative that will ultimately benefit the Ghanaian people. But our collective experience shows, and they themselves admit, that despite their initial opposition to many of these interventions, they've proven to be worth their weight in gold. I dare say, and I appeal to them, to cooperate with government and work with us to pass this levy as well, because ultimately, the results that we got from the communication service tax, which clearly did not destroy the industry, will also be evident post-implementation of this levy, as we are all working collectively to enhance access to and use of digital platforms, working with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that digital financial services becomes the norm rather than the exception, as we strive to create a cash-light society and reduce our reliance on cash for our transactions. This year, working with the ministry and the developers of the Ghana.gov platform, we intend to move applications and payment for all government goods and services onto the Ghana.gov platform. If any of you has applied for a passport recently, you would vouch for the fact that it's made it easy, simple, corruption-free, harassment-free. The Goro boys are screaming because they're being deprived of their livelihood, because now you don't need to know anybody to acquire a passport. Just go onto the Ghana.gov platform, submit your application, pay for it, and you'll be sent notification of when to come and collect your passport. And when you go, your passport is ready for collection. You don't have to pay a bribe to anyone. We're going to do the same for all government goods and services using that platform to ease government to citizen interactions and make it easier for us to conduct business in this country. It is not a story I'm telling you. It is a fact which is happening. If you apply to register a company now, you would see that, and I used this example yesterday, the minute you register your company, notification is sent to your district assembly where that business is located. They also send you notification instantly about the amount of of business operating license that you have to pay. You pay for it electronically. You get a receipt electronically. You're ready and you're set to commence business without having to pay bribe, join any queue, or suffer any harassment. That's the kind of digital infrastructure that we're putting in place, which will facilitate the use of digital forms of payment and will not collapse the industry. So I can say confidently to the Momo operators that we're working to grow your business and not to destroy it. A GSMA report also showed that when the levy, a similar levy was passed in Uganda, transaction values reduced slightly upon the introduction of this levy, but they picked up almost immediately, and after 4 months, we're back at the levels before the introduction of the tax, and currently have far outstripped those levels. I'm confident that it won't take even 4 months for the industry in Ghana here to absorb this levy and grow even more, as was the case with the communication service tax. We're unique, we're blessed, we're a nation after the heart, God's own heart. And so we've learned lessons from the experiences of other countries that have introduced digital taxes in this continent. And that is why the Minister for Finance has put a cap, a safety cap, whereby transactions up to 100 cedis are exempted from the levy to ensure that those who send these sums are not severely impacted. And 40% of all Momo transactions fall in this category. So almost half of all the transactions are exempted. Just a few statistics about how much we spent on e-commerce in by January 2021. We spent 234 million on travel, mobility, and accommodation. This was even down by 34% due to COVID restrictions on travel. We spent over 144 million on fashion and beauty on electronic platforms. This is in Ghana here. All these transactions happened electronically and went largely untaxed. Business has moved from physical locations online, outside the reach of the GRA, and depriving government of much needed revenue. We need to reverse that, and the E-levy will do that. It will enable government to build a proper digital infrastructure and create a digital marketplace which will connect buyers and sellers and help people access value-added services such as e-health, e-agric, e-education, etc. It will provide funding for cybersecurity to protect us from cyber fraudsters and criminals as we engage more on digital platforms. We all want connectivity, and a robust digital infrastructure will drive down the cost of using telecommunication services and improve access to digital services. We're rolling out the rural telephony project. It will also give all of us a chance to contribute to our own development and our economy, our economic and infrastructural development. It will reduce corruption, theft, and other forms of embezzlement because it is inherently traceable and people can't hide and commit fraud or crimes behind it. If you use a credit or a debit card, you pay between 2 to 4% transaction fees. And so the levy is on the lower end of total cost. All bank transfers also attract bank charges. So it is not true that this is going to affect or be double taxation or tax our capital as well. But I leave that for the finance minister to talk more about. The roads minister is here. We'll get funding for road construction and maintenance and more reliable payments for existing contracts to reduce the overall burden on government. Such infrastructural development will also create more jobs for the youth and cut down on youth unemployment, as Youth Start initiative would also do. More financial inclusion and digital empowerment for the less privileged in our society would also ensue. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals are there for government to achieve, including reducing inequality, gender equality, education, clean water, and sanitation. We need to find a way of increasing domestic revenue mobilization, which is key to achieving these goals. If the funds are not generated internally, we would either have to go and beg for aid, borrow. We can't steal. So we would either have to beg or borrow. And we cannot continue to borrow to finance or beg to finance our development. Government is seeking to meet its agenda of a Ghana beyond aid. And this requires all of us to support the E-levy and contribute our quota to national development. The world is changing, and we must depend more on our own internally generated funds for our development. He who pays the piper calls the tune. So long as we are dependent on donors, they will dictate the pace of our development. And so we need to rely less on donors to be truly independent. Our destiny really lies in our own hands.